the first week, I got 250,000 increase.
So as you push more, what do people do back? Well, they push you back. It creates resistance. So you've learned how to ask the right questions where they're pulling you in.
Where we film your pitch, we film it once. We're going to take it over to Discovery. He said, what's Discovery? I said, don't worry, I'll handle that.
Something happens when a hurdle happens. The top people, salespeople, entrepreneurs, business owners, they don't just stop. They go over the hurdle, around it, through it. They find a way to pivot.
I've seen people use mentors to raise capital. I had 25 employees and 6 trucks going out every single day. Within the first year, the equivalent of a $5 to $7 million business.
100%. How does one pivot and make money during, and let's say after a pandemic, instead of just staying in the status quo and hoping that it all works out? Okay, so whatever you're doing right now, whether you're driving down the road to an appointment with a prospect, or maybe you're picking up the phone and you're about to call a lead, or maybe you're walking into a boardroom meeting to finalize a deal or contract. Maybe right now with everything that's going on, maybe you're doing that on Zoom. I want you to stop and pay attention. Have you ever wondered and seriously thought about what does it actually take to be a top 1% salesperson in your industry? Okay, this is the salesperson who makes all the money because they outsell everybody else. They get any promotion they want. In fact, they turn down promotions they don't want. They have all the respect from the management and ownership in that company. Well, my next guest is going to help answer that question for you. And let me give you a small taste of this man's background. He is known as one of the greatest serial entrepreneurs and investors we have seen in nearly 3 decades of experience and practice to his resume. He is an original shark on the hit TV show Shark Tank, the creator of the infomercial, and pioneer of the as seen on TV industry. Huge. He's overcome obstacles to repeatedly enjoy not 10x success, 100x success. His legendary work behind the scenes of business ventures has produced more than $5 billion in global sales, the launch of more than 500 products, and the making of dozens of 8-figure businesses, including, but not limited to, Billy Mays, Tony Little, Jack LaLanne. I don't know if I'm even pronouncing that right. That's crazy. Today, he leans into his passion for entrepreneurship and mentorship, operating a private consulting firm where he works with companies to increase distribution, analyze online retailing opportunities, marketing, source manufacturing, and expand networks. He's also a highly sought-after speaker and author of several books, including the Wall Street Journal and USA Today best-selling book. We're going to talk about it today, Mentor to Millions, Secrets of Success in Business, Relationships, and Beyond. Now, Kevin, excited to have you here on the show.
That was a mouthful. Thanks, Jeremy. I appreciate that.
I'm like, what has this man not accomplished? That's what I'm going to talk about today. So I love talking about human behavior, okay, and how that deals with being a top sales performer or a top leader or a top manager or a top executive or entrepreneur, and what that actually means. So let's do this. Let's dive right in your story. Give our listeners maybe a feel for your background and how you arrived at this point where you're one of the elite authorities on mentorship, on leadership, on business. Can you tell us maybe a little bit about your background and how this started for you?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. So I consider myself, I think you mentioned serial entrepreneur, and very nice. Thanks. I've had businesses now since, for more than 40 years. So dozens and dozens of businesses, and I'm currently involved with dozens and dozens of businesses. So, but I started as a door-to-door salesman when I was 15 years old. So my father, I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, one of 6 kids. I was number 4. My dad was a bartender. And one day I was 11 years old and he grabbed me and he says, Kevin, he said, I've saved up enough money. I'm going to open up my own place. We're calling it Harrington's Irish Pub. And so And I'm like, well, what's that got to do with me, Dad? That's great. He said, no, you're going to be working there. So I was washing dishes and serving and, had some light food and stuff. But he was teaching me the inner workings of the business, the financial side, the theft that was happening from the busboys and the cooks and all the problems. And so, make a long story short, a couple of years later, he said, you need to start your own business now. And I started a driveway sealing business, Cincinnati, knocking on doors. People were slamming the door in my face. And I'm like, hey, it's dinner time. I understand. I tell you what, see that big crack out there in the middle of your driveway? When the water gets in there and freezes and triples the size of that crack, I know you're busy at dinner, but I can come back later and share with you how we can keep and prevent that crack from tripling. And he's like, well, wait, dinner. Yeah, well, let me tell my wife I'll be in a minute. And then all of a sudden I got him outside and then boom. So driveway sealing. And then in college, I started a heating and air conditioning company. And we were getting our leads from the new homeowner list out of the courthouse.
Okay.
You just bought a new house. You got great credit. You got some cash. You're moving into your new house. You get a phone call from my company. Hey, congratulations. Don't turn the furnace on until you get a free safety check from us, and we'll clean it while we're out there. I was a freshman in college, started this business from zero, and we were doing 10 installs a week. Within 6 months, I had 25 employees and 6 trucks going out every single day. Within the first year, the equivalent of a $5 to $7 million business annually.
I love that.
While I was in college, by the way. So now I'm almost at the end of my story. Then I said, I don't want to be a heating and air conditioning guy. I don't want to be a driveway sealing. I don't want to be in the bar business. So I had sold my company and I started looking to get into my next venture. And I'll never forget, I was sitting there in front of a business broker. He had 200 listings of companies, pizza parlors, delicatessens, laundromats, flower shops, manufacturing, import, export. But what did he have? The books and records, the leases, all the financial data of 200 companies. And I said, if I become a business broker, I'm going to be able to help people sell their business, help people buy a business, maybe partner with some of them, but also understand the inner workings of hundreds of companies. So that's what I started doing. And I was selling hundreds and then thousands of small businesses. And then I used to go to all these trade shows and I was, successful. I bought my first house. I'm just ordered cable television. And I'm looking at the first cable TV that I ever had in my home was almost 40 years ago. And back in the early 80s, but it only had 30 channels. HBO for movies and MTV for music and CNN for news. But we get to channel 30, the last channel, and there's nothing on. I called the cable company and I said, what's the problem? I said, I love the 29 channels I'm getting, but I'm paying you for 30. And they said, channel 30 is Discovery Channel. It's only an 18-hour-a-day channel because it's brand new. They don't have a budget for 24 hours a day. I said, so what's the other 6 hours a day? They said, dead air. I said, what? Dead air? I'm paying for dead air. Well, you're paying for 18 hours a day. Make a long story short, I said, if I have something to put in that block, and this is now, we're going back almost 40 years ago, I said, what can we do? And they said, come on down. So I started, because here I was selling all these different businesses and entrepreneurial, and I was at the Philadelphia Home Show that week, and there's a guy with a knife in his hand. He's cutting through a Coca-Cola can, through a muffler, through a pair of sneakers. It's called the Ginsu knife, he was saying. And this guy was crushing it, selling probably the greatest sales pitch I've ever seen. His name is Arnold Morris. Finally, he got on break. I bought a set of Ginsus, and I'm like, Arnold, that's the greatest pitch I've ever seen. I've seen you collect thousands of dollars here. And he said, kid, you think this is glamorous? I do this 8 days here in Philadelphia. I'm in St. Louis, and then Iowa State Fair the week after. I'm on the road 40 plus weeks a year. This is grueling. And I said, I got it. What if I could do something with you where we film your pitch? We film it once. We're going to take it over to Discovery. He said, what's Discovery? I said, don't worry, I'll handle that. And we're going to cut a deal. And I said, and you may not have to go out on the road again. And by the way, true statement, he never had to go out on the road again
That solved his problem.
we filmed it, cut a deal with Discovery, and that ended up doing hundreds of millions of dollars. So anyway, it was just, that was the birth, the beginning.
Wow. And the infomercial was born.
Yeah. And so, and by the way, it was Jack LaLanne. He was the fitness guy. So we did the Jack LaLanne juicer, the Tony Little ab isolator, George Foreman, Billy Mays, all the things you mentioned early on. We pioneered As Seen on TV, infomercials, etc. I did over 800 projects now in that world, and we've had some good success. But I will tell you this, we've also had some big failures. Not everything works. So I'll flip it back to you, Jeremy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. So I want to talk a lot about this book. So I was on your website earlier. Let's talk about the book, Mentor to Millions. Who did you write this for? And really, why did you write it?
Yeah, great question. So the last part of the story, and you mentioned it. Yes, I got a phone call from Mark Burnett to go on Shark Tank. And so here I am on national television, ABC Network. And the show was running a couple times a week, seeing over 10 million viewers. Yeah. Then it was going on CNBC 2 hours a day. I mean, we were hitting 100+ million people a month. New visitors, new viewers watching Shark Tank. Crazy. Well, what did they all want? They wanted, first of all, the people coming on Shark Tank wanted money. Yeah. The people watching, they wanted to get access to a shark. Yeah. And so the first week, I got 250,000 inquiries. The very I don't necessarily need your money, but can you help me? He was saying, right? Yeah. The different folks I got in touch with. But at the end of the day, you can't help everybody. But I did start an organization called the Entrepreneurs Organization. I was one of the co-founding board members, and EO gives you mentors. And so I said to myself, I have had the benefit of powerful mentors in my life for many, many years, going all the way back to my father when I was 11 years old. Yeah. And most people don't necessarily, more than half of the entrepreneurial world does not have a mentor. Sure. But the other half does. Yeah. And so I think I wrote the book for the people that don't, because they need one. And I'm going to tell you this, in one of the greatest difficult times we've all had is recently with COVID-19, right? Yeah. So what are you going to do if you have a restaurant, if you have a retail store? People need answers. They need help. They need ideas. And this is what I do. I help people get out of the problems that they're sitting in, right? And so, I do the best I can, but I invest in companies, but I also mentor and coach and assist. So people need mentoring, and this is a book on how to get one, how to be the best student of a mentor, and then how to pay it forward by going out and mentoring somebody yourself.
What typically happens to like salespeople and entrepreneurs as they go through business or sales and they don't have a mentor? What are some of the consequences of not having a mentor?
Well, I'll give you one of my consequences. I was trying to, I had a great business that was doing well, but we couldn't get financing. Right. And people said, oh, just go down to the bank and get a line of credit, right? Well, this was 35 years ago. Yeah. And so I went down to the bank and they pretty much slammed the door in my face. Said, if you don't have millions of dollars in equity, we're not going to loan you millions of dollars. Yeah. And I went to 5 banks. And all of them, one of them was polite at least, but most of them were like, get out of here. We're not going to loan you money. Sure. And so I said, what am I going to do? I can't grow my business. So finally somebody said, you need a finance mentor, Kevin. And I'm like, oh, wow, I need somebody. Yeah. Where do I get that person? Well, as it turned out, there's ways we can talk about it, but I ended up connecting with a guy. Sure. And he was a former bank president who had retired. Yeah. And we meet and he says, look, he said, Kevin, you told me, I told him all about my business. Said, your business is bankable, but I'll bet you it's not bankable the way you were presenting it. Did you get financing? And I said, no, I didn't. I said, I got turned down. Yeah. He looked at who I talked to. He said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to get you a $3 million line of credit. Mm-hmm. I'm probably going to get it from one of those guys that turned you down because I know some of them. And I'm going to do that spend 90 days to do it, clean up the company, not going to charge you a dime. You don't owe me a dime when it's done, but you owe me a meeting so we can sit down and see if there's something to explore for the future. Everything he said happened. 3 months later, $3 million in my bank from somebody that turned me down. I was on my way. We 10x the size of the company from that point forward. And then I ended up bringing this guy in a relationship.
Yeah, I mean, that's why a mentor is so important. You know, the motto in our company that we have, and I've worked with one of my mentors a long time, and we talk about is training, mentorship, is training something that you did, or is it something that you do? Right? It's something that you do if you want to be in the top 1% of any profession that you're in. Now, let's talk a little bit about the tactical ways of getting a mentor. What are some of the best ways to find a real mentor? Because here's the thing, there are a lot of people out there in the coaching or mentor space that say that they've got the latest, greatest things, right? But how do we know what mentor to work with who's going to teach us the right skills?
That's very good and good question. And I'll say this. It's not completely easy. I mean, so I helped a guy. He was in the business of selling products to the military, and he was having a hard time. He just, there's a lot of bureaucracy and things like that in the military. So he came to me looking for help, and I said, I have no experience in this area. I'm not going to be able to help you, but I'm going to help you get a mentor. And he said, wow, that would be great. How do you do that? I said, well, we live in Tampa, Florida. MacDill Air Force Base is here. There's many retired generals that are living at MacDill Air Force Base, and they're looking to mentor a company. So I went out there. I found a General Chip Deal was actually one of the former generals. He had retired, and he became a mentor and helped open doors, et cetera, et cetera. So you need people with relevance of background. Secondly, I say, when I got this finance guy, I'm really big at networking. From chambers of commerce to Genius Network to Board of Advisors to the War Room. You've probably heard of some of these groups: Roland Frazier, Joe Polish, Mike Calhoun, but also Entrepreneurs Organization, Chambers of Commerce. One last tip that I give, and I say, if you're in business, you're an entrepreneur like I was, and I needed a finance guy. I'm writing checks every day to accountants, to lawyers, to phone centers, to media companies, and all of them would benefit more if I could get more financing. So I say, reach out to the people you're currently writing checks to, doing business with, that are in your sphere of influence, that you're networking with. Because when I did that, this is how my finance guy came about. My accountants said, hey, look, you've got a great business. You need some organization. You need a mentor in the world of finance, and let us see if we can find someone. So they actually put their feelers out, talking to some different banks and whatever, and they were the ones that found the retired bank president. So it's sitting right in front of you. The first thing you have to do, though, Jeremy, raise your hand and say, I need a mentor. And
well, first of all, you have to know
that over the internet, and they get some great responses.
Oh, first of all, yeah. And a lot of times people just don't know what they don't know, right? Like when I first got into sales 19 years ago as a broke, burned out college student, I didn't know what I didn't know, right? So the company gave me all these scripts and like books from what I call the old sales gurus. And I thought that would work, right? But I found out very quickly that it didn't work that well, right? And when I used a lot of what they were teaching, I got more rejection. I got more objections, right? And I listened to a Tony Robbins CD way back. I don't even know if there were CDs back in 2003, whatever it was. And he said, most people fail for the simple reason they don't learn the right skills necessary to succeed. And he goes on to say that everybody's taught skills, but the people who fail were the ones who were not taught the right ones. Right. So you have to learn from a mentor who's actually where you really want to be, not someone that's halfway there or quarter way there, but where you actually want to be. That type of advice led me to the right mentors in my sales career, right? A 12-year sales career where I earned almost $3 million a year in straight commissions as a W-2 salesperson. Had I not found the right mentor, where would I be now?
Exactly.
Who knows? $10 an hour job, something. Now, let's talk about this 3-step formula. You talk a lot about a 3-step formula to get the most out of the mentor. So you've hired the mentor. What are those 3 steps?
The first step of getting a mentor, I think I just meant raise your hand. Say,
You
I
gotta raise
need,
your hand.
right? So that just means I've got to go do it. And that's reaching out to friends, family, business associates, contacts, networks, all the above, all the things that we were just talking about. So that's step one.
Yeah.
Step two is now you're engaged with the mentor.
Yeah.
It's important that you do what the mentor says. I mean, obviously, if the mentor is the right person,
Sure.
giving you good advice,
Yeah.
you need to listen to their advice, okay? Now, I'm not gonna say that, oh, you didn't do exactly what I said, shame on you, I'm done with you. No,
Sure.
it's a process. And sometimes mentors are gonna tell you something to do that's tough to do, right? So it may not happen right away, but the key here is be a good student to the mentor. This is important because Jeremy, you've probably mentored some people, I'm sure, and you've had some great mentors. I've mentored many and had great ones, but the worst thing going to happens when somebody takes all my time and they tell me they don't have any more time to do what I've suggested and they're going to go a different direction. So be a good student, treat them perfectly. And then the last step, and this is important because we're in a very difficult time right now with all the COVID pandemic issues that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
It's important now, we say on the third step, because you got the mentor, you're a great student to the mentor's helped you. Now you have to pay it forward and go mentor somebody yourself. And this now completes that loop.
That circle. I love that. Let's talk a little bit about selling and persuasion. Why is it so important for people to learn how to sell in today's competitive environment? Why is it such an important skill to learn? Your thoughts?
So I'll say this. I've got an example of an interesting sales pitch that I made, and it's important because as an entrepreneur, I was at a point in business where I was expanding around the world, seeking partnerships. Right. So I was on my way to Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, to meet Sheikh Salah Kamel, who owned Arab radio television. He had 5 channels.
Yeah.
And these channels were 24-hour channels, but they went dark at midnight and came back on at 6 a.m. 5 channels with 6 hours of unused airtime, 30 hours a day of unused time. Now, I was going there to talk to him about being a partner and to talk to him about investing the $25 million that we needed to open that business. Yeah. And so I didn't go in to sell him hardcore. When I went in, I took a little different approach. And I said, look, Mr. Sheikh, I'm here because we're evaluating all of our possible partners in this region. And in full disclosure, we are in discussions with one of your competitors, the Orbit company. But I do want to let you know that we're here to really fully evaluate how you can become a partner with us. So, and right away, he went into sell mode of his own. He's like, look, you don't want to do business with them. Let me tell you why you have to choose me. And so I turned it all around. It wasn't a hard sell. Now I was approving and evaluating my partnership. Now, we did that deal. He wrote a check for $25 million. That became a huge area of success for us. The point being, we never would have had that business if I didn't really understand the selling process.
Well,
it's sales technique.
It's the push-pull dynamic. Most salespeople are taught how to push, push, push. And as a human being, human behavior, like my background in college, behavioral science, human behavior. So as you push more, what do people do back? Well, they push you back. It creates resistance. So you've learned how to ask the right questions where they're pulling you in. Right. And when they start to pull you in, they chase you down to do deals. Exactly. You're not chasing them.
Fear of losing out or something like that, I think.
Fear of loss, the fear of loss, or not getting where they really want to go. There's two different types of motivations with humans. Yeah. So let's talk about this. I want to talk about the book. What are a few key messages? Like, what are a few couple of messages that you want our listeners to really understand about this book that you've written?
So I want people to understand, number one, that it's not difficult to get mentors, and especially today. You know why? Because the COVID pandemic has hurt a lot of businesses. There's a lot of people right now looking to give back, and I'm one of them. So I have I do a lot of different things in my life, but I do have a free mentoring side of me that picks a certain number of people on a quarterly basis to work with them. No charge, no strings attached, just help. And so there's many people like this out there looking for you if you need help. So don't be afraid. And what I say a lot of times, people are like, yeah, but I don't know what the right timing is and this and that. Well, I say you have to act now. Now is the time to put a plan together to go get the mentor, follow their advice. And by the way, you can also, I've seen people use mentors to raise capital, okay? Because if you have a mentor that's got a great track record and maybe he joined your advisory board, you know, we had a case where we were actually able to go out and raise $8 million around a gentleman that had a 5-year track record inside he was a president of a $5 billion beauty company. Right. He had retired, and now we were able to bring him on and utilize him and his resume for the power of raising capital. So mentors can do many things. They can, and for me, like I mentioned way back, I got that $3 million line of credit. I 10x'd my business. So these are the opportunities that are out there if you just follow a plan to go get a mentor.
100%. How does one pivot and make money during, and let's say after a pandemic, instead of just staying in the status quo and hoping that it all works out?
All right, so let me explain this. I've been dealing with audience levels and all of this for many, many years. First thing that happened when COVID hit is stores are closing. The restaurants are closing. People, 30 plus million unemployed. So what happens? The people that are at home is skyrocketing. It's going just unbelievably huge numbers. So this is households using television and households using the internet was doubling and tripling in the very beginning. Now, at the same time, what happened is that advertisers plummeted because you're not advertising for your restaurant or for the concert that people can't come see. So now you've got no advertisers, huge viewership. What did I do during COVID? In this delta, I went after customer acquisition for all of the entities that I'm involved with. We had one campaign went from an $18 customer acquisition to $5. And it lasted for almost 8 weeks. So, I mean, there's a classic case of a gentleman, if you've ever heard of the company Beachbody, Carl Deichler. Yeah, Carl, I've known for years. Years back, he had a little a job inside one of my businesses way back. But Carl is a smart guy. I'll say he's probably smarter than me because he's built an amazing company called Beachbody. But when COVID hit, what was he doing? He was giving away $8,000 in Beachbody videos for free.
A stay-at-home market.
Right. And just crushing it. So we also have pivoted to housewares, more hardware products. I had the magic wrench and the magic saw on years and years ago. And so, so here's an item that we sold tons of back in the day, right? This is an amazing piece of merchandise. It comes out of Korea, but people are doing do-it-yourself stuff at home now. So wrenches, saws, hammers, you name it, housewares, fitness, we're pushing on all gears. I love re-engaging with some of the old things from the old days.
It's all about transition. It's all about, when something happens, when a hurdle happens, the top people, salespeople, entrepreneurs, business owners, they don't just stop. They go over the hurdle, around it, through it. They find a way to pivot. That's so important, especially in the speaking industry. I have a lot of friends that are speakers. They have no business. There's no speaking. If you can't get online virtually now, you're done. So you have to go virtual for sure, depending on what space you're in. Hey, can't thank you enough for being on here, Kevin. Where can our listeners learn more about you and your training real quick?
So on the website, just my website, kevinharrington.tv is a great place to go. We've got a lot of free downloads and stuff there. And also if you want to check out the book, you go to kevinmentor.com. And there we've, and also you can just go to Amazon now. We hit #2 on the Wall Street Journal bestseller list last week. So we're excited with USA Today list, Amazon #1. We've had a good run with the book, and it's great spending time with you, Jeremy, so we can kind of get the message out to your tribe and see if anybody would like to connect with us.
You'll have a lot of people who are going to purchase this book, my friend. I appreciate you being on here. Thank you so much. Now, if you're serious about joining the top 1%, I mean the top 1%, and you want to experience more training content just like this, click the links right over there. Right over there, they're exactly what you need to see next. You see, I release new episodes featuring top salespeople and sales authorities, multiple six-figure, high six-figure, even seven-figure earners every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday every single week at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And if you're new here, do yourself a favor and smash that subscribe button right below, and join our new Facebook group, Sales Revolution. You see, it's free, and there's a link in the description below just for you. We put it there for you. Finally, I make posts on Facebook and Instagram each and every day with more tips and training, so be sure and follow me and turn on your notifications. So make a comment in the first 7 minutes to any of my latest posts, share this episode, and there's a very real chance that you're gonna win some killer prizes. And here's the thing, don't sit on the sidelines. Don't be like everyone else. Get into the game. Join the sales revolution, stay active, get involved, learn the right skills, and we will show you how to take your life and income to a level that most only dream about. Stay safe. Talk to you soon.